What's going on? It's been a week or two, but I'm excited to get back into it. Bro, why are we so obsessed with the good old days? Why do we sit and doom scroll TikToks of past days we can no longer go back to? Why is the fashion that's in now look like that of the early 2000s? We are living in this absolute epidemic right now where everyone is just a complete gooner for nostalgia, fetishizing the past like it was this flawless utopia and acting like anything that comes out today is an automatic L. You see it everywhere, man. They just ported Black Ops 1 and 2 to the PS5 and suddenly every dude on the internet is acting like these 15-year-old games with clunky mechanics completely mog the new Call of Duties and their engines. That's not to say they're not good games, they are brilliant, but we take for granted the updates that have come our way. Or even people are crying about Black Flag Racing, saying the original was a million times better just because the water graphics felt more authentic and Edward Kenway trudged his legs along the beach back when they were rendering on a literal toast. We are completely obsessed with the old versions of everything, including our parents who literally do the exact same thing when they complain about how music or movies or the economy were so much better in the 80s, 90s and early 2000s, completely ignoring all the actual historical facts. We are judging the reality of 2026 against a heavily photoshopped, romanticized memory of the past, and it is entirely driving us insane and making us completely miserable in the present moment. I'm not gonna lie to you guys, I was the absolute king of this toxic nostalgia trap, and it basically ruined my early 20s. I even have to stop myself today thinking like this. I was just this miserable bozo living in the city, working a job I couldn't stand. And instead of actually trying to fix my life or build any sort of decent future, I just constantly lived in the past. Like I would come home to my apartment, completely exhausted from work, and I just refused to engage with the modern world at all. Fire up the old consoles, completely ignoring any new releases. And I just get absolutely geeked while playing the exact same childhood games over and over again, trying to forcefully squeeze dopamine out of a memory from when I was 14. I locked in on Black Ops 3. We were already ahead on Call of Duty. I'm almost certain we were on Black Ops Cold War and I was still playing Black Ops 3. I was that annoying guy in the group chat who would just complain non-stop about how everything new coming out is trash, how the new movies are just corporate slop, how the new games have absolutely no soul, how the vibe of the world is just totally cooked now. I would literally doom scroll for hours looking at those take me back to 2014 rage bait compilation videos on TikTok, getting emotional over an era of my life where I honestly was just an insecure, pimply teenager who didn't even know how to talk to girls. I was acting like a total chud, rejecting everything new because I was so deeply terrified of the present moment and my lack of progress. I was using nostalgia as this massive cope, bro. I'd buy vintage clothes for ridiculous markup prices, listen to the exact same playlists I made in high school, and just sit in my room, rot, convincing myself that the world had already ended. And I was just playing out the boring epilogue. I was basically a grumpy old man in a 20-something's body, completely refusing to accept that maybe, just maybe, the original Black Flag only felt like a masterpiece because I played it when I had zero responsibilities, zero bills, and zero existential dread, not because the game mechanics were actually flawless. I was so caught up in this fake timeline in my head, where the past was golden and the future was doomed, that I was missing the fact that I was squandering the best years of my physical life, just being a depressed amateur historian of my own childhood. But what you realize once you actually step back and analyze why we do this, the nostalgia industry on the whole is just a massive calculated trap designed to keep you numb and perfectly complacent. Society and these massive tech algorithms totally understand that the modern world is complicated and stressful. You know what I mean? They know we are out here struggling with high rent, weird social dynamics, and a chaotic economy. So what do? They weaponize our own memories against us to make an insane profit. They constantly spoon feed us these remastered versions of things we already know we like because it's a guaranteed safe sale. If you think about it, we've had like 6 versions of Nuketown. They rely on the fact that your brain edits out the bad parts of the past as a survival mechanism. When you think about playing Black Ops 2 back in the day, your brain doesn't remember the lag compensation, the screaming toxic lobbies, the constant host migrations that ruined your mood, or the fact that you were failing a math class and terrified your parents would find out. It just remembers the sheer dopamine hit of getting a high score while eating chips and pizza on a Friday night. So when Black Ops 7 comes out with objectively better graphics, faster movement, and tighter gunplay, you hate it because you aren't actually comparing the games. Bro, you are comparing the feeling of being a carefree kid against the feeling of being an incredibly stressed out adult who has to pay taxes tomorrow. Now, when I say this, I don't mean that Black Ops 7 is better than Black Ops 1 or 2. I know I'm going to get hate in my comments if you guys believe that, but I do believe the modern Call of Duties are not cut enough slack. They sell you this mirage that if you just buy the retro sneakers or the PS5 port of the old game or listen to the remastered podcast or re-released book, you can somehow buy your way back to a time when your aura wasn't completely ruined by adult responsibilities. They want you sitting around complaining that things used to be better because a population that is obsessed with the past is a population that completely gives up on building a better future. If you genuinely believe that the world peaked 10 years ago, you aren't going to try and start a business, get in shape, or build a real community, right? You're just going to retreat into your little retro bubble and blindly consume. Like, if you look at it, our parents do this exact same thing when they complain about modern society, totally glossing over the massive social issues, the crime rates, and the lead poisoning of their era just because they deeply miss having knees that didn't hurt. Like, if you think about it, think about how your parents have rejected technology and rely on us to help them do all their online stuff. The truth is, if we look at the actual facts instead of just our anecdotal feelings, we have it incredibly good right now. We have access to literally all of the world's information. Medical advancements are completely insane. Global connectivity is at its absolute peak, but we are too busy crying over the fact that a new video game changed the menu layout. It's just a complete distraction, a total illusion designed to keep you from actually participating in the reality of today. I had a wake-up call and it was so pathetic, but it completely shattered the illusion for me, and I'm so incredibly glad it happened because I was spiraling fast. Even when I think about it recently, like, I stayed in when the Black Ops 1 and 2 remasters had just dropped on the store. I've been hyping this up in my head for weeks. We heard the rumors. We knew it was coming out. I told all my bros I was going off the grid. I'm gonna buy all the same stuff, the Dr. Pepper, the sweets I used to eat as a kid. I turned my phone off, and I'm going to transport back to being 15 and feel that absolute peak happiness. I booted up a match of multiplayer, and within like 20 minutes after being dumped on by the new gens, I just sat there in the dark feeling completely and utterly empty. The game was exactly the same, the maps were the same, but the feeling just wasn't there at all. The mechanics actually kind of felt clunky compared to what I'm now used to. The graphics were jarring even with the upscale, and instead of feeling this massive wave of joy, I just felt this hollow sort of sinking feeling in my chest. I paused the game, sort of looked around what I'm doing, and I just realized in this flash of brutal clarity that the magic wasn't in the code of the game. The magic was the context of my youth, and the context is dead and gone forever. I was sitting there as a grown-ass man trying to wear my childhood clothes, and they didn't fit anymore, and it was suffocating. I realized I'd wasted years of my life complaining that things weren't the way they used to be, hating the present moment, and blinding myself to the fact that 10 years from now, I'll probably be sitting around feeling nostalgic for right now. I was the one making my own life miserable by constantly comparing my real, messy present to a heavily edited, idealized hallucination of the past. I did enjoy the game, don't get me wrong, but we all won't be playing it long term. I had this sickening, visceral moment where I realized I was literally turning into one of those grumpy old men who yell at clouds, and I'm not even 30 years old yet. Probably one of the biggest L's I've ever taken. Realized that my entire personality and all my tastes were just a desperate cope from my deep-seated fear of growing up and facing the unknown. So thinking about this, even since the games have come out, I've decided to cut my cord complete. I decided then and there to forcefully kill my addiction to nostalgia. And I'm not going to lie to you guys, in the past few weeks, doing that was really, really hard. When you stop retreating to your childhood comfort zones every single time you feel stressed, you actually face the overwhelming reality of the modern world with no filter. The first few weeks of refusing to engage in this toxic, everything is worse now groupthink with my friends was kind of isolating. My brain was practically begging me just to boot up those games or scroll through TikToks of watching it to get that cheap emotional safety blanket. But slowly, as I force myself to stay anchored in the actual present, this massive, undeniable W has started to take over my life. When you stop expecting the world of 2026 to feel exactly like the world of 2012, you start appreciating things for what they are right now. I started forcing myself to engage with new things. And I actually booted back up Black Ops 7 and played it and realised that we gave that game too hard of a time as a game. Obviously, it has its flaws like most Call of Duties do, but the multiplayer is solid for what it is. I realised that there's so much effort being put into these games right now that if you just open your eyes and stop being a hater, you can actually enjoy it. Even playing Black Flag Resynced, I'm enjoying them for their new mechanics instead of whining that they changed the old ones. I'm enjoying the combat. I'm glad Ubisoft decided to pivot away from full RPG, but keep some mechanics that were working. Instead of constantly trying to recreate the past, I've started pouring my energy into building a future I could actually be proud of. I go to the gym consistently. I lift heavy weights, sweating all that stagnant energy, and I'm building a body that feels good to live in right now, instead of just missing when I was naturally skinny as a teenager. I'm trying to stop being the cynical, whiny bozo in the group chat and became the guy who's firing on all cylinders, looking forward to what's coming next. And when you think about it, like if you just accept the passage of time, the mental clarity you get from that is incredibly liberating. You have no idea. You realize that you aren't actually grieving the old video games or the old movies. You are grieving the loss of your own innocence. And once you accept that, you can finally start acting like a man who is grounded in reality. The present moment is literally all we have. And when you stop fighting it and stop comparing it to a ghost, you realize we actually have it pretty damn good right now. But listen, guys, as I finish up, I want to make it absolutely clear that I'm not some enlightened Zen master now who can't enjoy things from the past, who never looks back or never feels sad. I'm not going to act like Black Ops 7 is this perfect game and it's better than everything we've ever gotten in the past. I'm not going to act like deleting a few old games off your hard drive and forcing a smile means your life is suddenly this perfect, frictionless utopia. The modern world still has massive structural issues. Economy is stressful as hell, relationships are difficult, and yes, sometimes those new movies and new updates to games are genuinely just terrible corporate slop that deserve to be criticised. Life is still a chaotic mess of ups and downs, and there are days where I feel completely overwhelmed and my brain violently tries to retreat into that comfortable, nostalgic safe space where nothing can hurt me. There are days where I still have to sit down on my living room floor and force myself to do 20 minutes of meditation to stop myself from spiraling about the future, which is low-key super annoying because sitting in silence just forces you to confront all the chaotic noise in your head, and my ADHD brain hates it. It is not a perfect magical fix, but the massive difference now is that I am facing these modern problems awake and completely sober to the reality of the present. I'm not hiding behind the ghosts of my childhood anymore to protect my ego. If you are sitting there right now feeling completely cooked because you think the world has passed you by and everything good is permanently behind you, you need to snap out of it. Drop the illusion. The past is a memory, but the present is where your actual life is happening. Let me know what you guys think. I'll be curious to see your thoughts in the comments. And thank you for all the love recently. I'll talk to you soon. Peace.